लाइन जा रहा है। नहीं, बाहर कैसे लगे? बाहर नहीं जा रहा, बाहर बंद क्या कर रहा है? उधर उधर से Please suppose this what is your curriculum? What is your person practical? What is the process and development to business? What is reverse development? What is developing? A process of development. A process for development to logistical. This is development to decision. This is over the both more tested in the state of the highest operations for the calculus. Bentham method of measuring pressure and what is specific calculus? Bentham method of measuring pressure. Bentham method of measuring pressure and why is Jasmine called a river kingdom? Because he strongly support liberty and freedom of speech. Why is Jasmine called river kingdom? Because he strongly support individual liberty and space and freedom of speech. What is authority according to the supreme authority? Supreme and absolute power of a ruler of a state. What is sovereignty according to law? Sovereignty is supreme and absolute power. So absolute power of the ruler in the ruler over the state. Power of the ruler. It is the supreme and absolute power of the ruler in the state. Over the state. Why did Hope support an absolute sovereignty to maintain peace and order? Peace and prevent civil. Why did Hope support an absolute sovereignty to maintain peace and prevent civil? Where does law locates the legitimacy of sovereignty? Where does law locate the legitimacy of government? In the consent of government. In the consent of government. Where does law locates the legitimacy of government? In the consent of the government. Where does law locates the legitimacy of government? In the concept of government. Where are two treaties? Where are two treaties of government? What are the treaties of government? The first treaties of government and second treaties of government. What are the two treaties of government in Bible? The first treaties of government and second treaties of government. First treaties of government, second treaties of government. What are the two treaties of government in by the law? The first treaties of government, the second treaties of government. What is Rawls' idea of popular sovereignty? Sovereignty belongs to the people electively. Sovereignty belongs to the people. What is Rawls' idea of popular sovereignty? What is Rawls' idea of popular sovereignty? Sovereignty belongs to the people. People's collectively. Sovereignty belongs to the people collectively. What is Rawls' idea of popular sovereignty? Sovereignty belongs to the people collectively. Who said man is born free, but everywhere he is in chains? Jane Jacob Ross. Our old village What is the meaning of thesis? Legal directives. What is the meaning of thesis in previous value? It is interior, interior area of purpose. It is the interior area proposition. What is thesis? It is opposite and introduction part of thesis. Introduction of the thesis. Okay. It is the opposite. What is it? It is the meaning of the data. Data is all the thesis. Who influenced mass conservation? What is surplus values? The different values. What is surplus value? The difference between the value produced by worker and the wage paid to them. The difference between the worker produced the difference between the value produced by the worker and the wages the wages paid to them. The difference between what is the surplus value? What is surplus value? The difference between the value of the value produced by the worker and the wages paid to them. The workers and the wages paid to them. What is bourgeois? The capitalist class that owns the means of production. The capitalist class that owns the means of production. The capitalist class that owns the means of production. What is bourgeois? The capitalist class that owns the means of production. The capitalist class that owns the means of production. The capitalist class that owns the means of production. What is bourgeois? The capitalist class owns the means of production. The capitalist class that owns the means of production. The capitalist class that owns the means of production. The capitalist class that owns the means of production. What is proletariat? What is proletariat? The working class that sells its labor for wages. The working class that sells its labor for wages. It must prove that working class that sales is level progressive. Working class that sales is what it is what is the greatest happiness. Actions are right if they produce the greatest happiness of development. Actions are right if they produce the greatest happiness of development. Actions are if they the God is proportional. The counts comes first. The capitalist law that counts comes first. What is for all the world? New class the self is labor for wages. New class the self is labor for wages. What is the greatest man? What is the greatest? What is the greatest happiness principle? Actions are what is the greatest happiness principle. Actions that are right if they promote the greatest happiness of greatest moment. What did James mean by higher value? What did James mean by higher pleasure? The intellectual and moral pleasure are superior than what did James mean by an intellectual and moral pleasure is superior than the physical. Who wrote on unity? Who wrote unity? Right. Who wrote unity? Right. Who wrote on liberty? Who wrote on liberty? J.S. Mill. Who wrote philosophy of right? Who wrote the Communist Manifesto? Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Who wrote the Communist Manifesto? Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Who drive history volume Marx? What the drive history volume Marx? First one. What is material according to Hobbes? The belief that everything in the universe is matter in motion. What is materialism according to Hobbes? The belief that everything in the universe is the matter in motion. The belief that everything in the universe is matter in motion. The belief that everything in the universe is matter in motion. The belief that in the universe, the belief that in the universe is the belief that everything in the universe is matter in motion. The belief that everything in the matter of in motion. Who They believe that everything in the universe, they believe that everything in the universe matter in on the motion. Matter and motion. They believe that everything in the universe is matter and motion. Who is known as father of liberalism? J.S. Neil, for example. Who is known as father of liberalism? John Locke. Liberalism, John Locke. Who, what is social control according to an argument among individuals? The argument between among individuals who surrender their right to a sovereign for peace and security. An agreement among people. An argument among individuals to surrender their right to a sovereign for peace and security. An agreement, what is social control? An agreement among people to surrender their right to a sovereign for peace and security. What is meant by consent in lawsuit? What is meant by consent in lawsuit? What is meant by consent in lawsuit? Government derives its authority from the consent of the people. What is meant by consent? What is meant by consent in lawsuit? The government derives its authority from the consent of the people. The consent of the people. The government derives its authority from the consent of the people. Why did Locke support the right to? Why did Locke support the right to rebellion? People may overthrow a government that violates their national right. People may overthrow the government if they violate their national right. A government that violates, people may overthrow a government. People may overthrow a government. People may overthrow a government that violates their national right. People may overthrow a government that violates their national right. What is Rawls' real? What is Rawls' real? The rational will and the what is the Rawls' real will? The rational will aim at the common good. The rational will aim at the common good. What is rational Rawls' real will? The rational will aim at for the common good. What is Rawls' actual will? What is Rawls' actual will? The selfish and temporary desire. What is the real will? What is the Rawls' actual will? The selfish and temporary desire of the individual. What is Rawls' actual will? What is the Rawls' actual will? The temporary and the selfish and temporary desire of individual. The temporary desire of individual. What does Hegel mean by freedom? Freedom is realized through obedience to the rational law of the state. Rational law of state. Freedom is realized through the freedom is realized through obedience of the state. Obedience to the national. Obedience to the rational law of the state. Freedom is realized through obedience. Freedom is realized through obedience. Freedom is realized through obedience of freedom is realized through obedience. Freedom is realized through obedience. Freedom is realized through obedience of obedience to the national. What does freedom mean by freedom? The freedom is realized through obedience to the rational law of state. Freedom is realized through the obedience. The freedom is realized through obedience of obedience. Freedom is realized through obedience to the freedom is used to the rational law of the state. Which famous statement is associated with Hegel? State is a master plan. Which famous statement is associated with which state is a master plan? What is meant by economic base in Marxism? What is the economic structure of society consisting of force and regulation of production? Consisting of forces and relation of production. The economic structure of society consisting of forces and relation of production. What is meant by economic base? What is meant by economic base society? The economic structure in economic structure of society force society consists of forces. The economic system of society consisting of forces and relation of society, relation of production. What is meant by economic base what is meant by economic base in society? What is the economic structures in society consisting of forces and relation of production? What is superstructure according to Marx? Political, legal, religious and cultural institution built upon the ground. Political, legal, religious, cultural, institutional, political, legal, religious, cultural institution built upon the economics desk. Who wrote the Communist Manifesto? Who wrote the Karl Marx and the Lenin? Who wrote the Communist Manifesto? Who wrote the Communist Manifesto? Karl Marx and Lenin. What is revolution only now. Revolution requires when contradiction if the overthrow of capitalism by the working class. What is revolution or the overthrow of capitalist class? Capitalism overthrow overthrow capitalism by the working class. Why did Bentham reject natural right? He called them nonsense upon settles because they lacked legal basis. Because they lacked legal basis. He called them. Why did Bentham reject natural right? He called them nonsense upon cities. Nonsense upon cities. He called them nonsense upon cities. They called them nonsense upon cities. They called them nonsense upon cities. Because they need legal basis. Because they need legal basis. Who gave the concept of philosophic errors? Who gave the concept of philosophic errors? Jeremy Bentham. Who gave the concept of what is means harm principle? Legal liberty can be restricted only to prevent the what is means harm principle? Legal liberty can be restricted only to prevent harm to others. What is means harm principle? Legal liberty can be restriction only to prevent harm others. Or the legal liberty can be restricted only to prevent harm to others. Restricted only to legal liberty can be restricted only to prevent harm to others. Cops, law, laws, social conduct, legal, philosophy of right, the physical marks of because the communist manifesto, Bentham, introduction of the principle of morals and behavior, introduction of principle of morals and legislation, introduction of principle of the introduction to the principle of morals and legislation. So this is just me, the only. Why did Hobbes mean by all? Why did Hobbes mean by all of all other thought? A condition where a condition in the state of nature where everyone is in conflict with everyone else. A condition in the state of nature. A condition in the state of nature. A condition in the state of nature. A condition in the state of nature where everyone. A condition in the state of nature where everyone is everyone is in conflict with everyone else. A condition in the state of nature where everyone is in conflict with everyone. Is in conflict with everyone. A condition in the state of nature where everyone is in a conflict with the everyone with the with everyone. Where everyone is in conflict with everyone else. Who? What is self-preservation according to Hobbes? What is self-preservation according to Hobbes? Natural desire of every individual to protect and preserve his life. What is self-preservation according to Hobbes? What is self-preservation according to Hobbes? The natural desire of individual. The natural desire of individual. What is self-preservation according to Hobbes? Natural desire of individuals to protect and preserve his life. What is self-preservation? Natural desire of an individual to protect and preserve their life. Protect natural desire of individual desire of every individual to protect and preserve their life. Protect and preserve his life. Preserve his life. The natural desire of every individual to protect and preserve his life. What is self-preservation? The natural desire. What is self-preservation? The natural desire of every individual to protect and preserve his life. What are the law of nature in Hobbes theory? What is the rules discovered by reason that help maintain peace and stuff? What are the laws of nature in Hobbes theory? The rules discovered by reason. The rules discovered by reason that helps maintain peace, that helps maintain peace and security. The rules discovered by reason. Rules discovered by reason that helps maintain peace and security. Rules discovered by reason. Rules discovered by reason that help maintain peace and security. Rules discovered by reason that helps maintain peace and security. Rules discovered by reason that helps maintain peace and security. Rules discovered by reason that helps maintain peace and security. That helps maintain peace and security. government whose powers are restricted by laws and the consent of the people. The government whose power is restricted by the rule of law and consent of the people. The government whose power are restricted by the government whose power is what is limited to government by government whose power is restricted by law and consist by the consist of the people. So, what is proportionality? Principle of proportionality is the principle of limited unlimited political power. The principle of what is proportionality? Proportionality, the ultimate is because that the sovereignty is because the principle that the ultimate power is the power of the principle that ultimate power belongs to the most to the God. Why is laws considered a theocratic figure? Why is laws considered a theocratic figure? Because he believes sovereignty. Because he believes sovereignty belongs to the people and should be expressed through the general. Because he believes sovereignty belongs to the people and should because democratic figure, because he believes sovereignty belongs to the people and should be exercised through the country. Because he believes sovereignty belongs to the people and belongs to the people and should be exercised. It should be exercised through the middle and should be exercised through the middle and should be exercised. Why is laws considered? Because he believes sovereignty belongs to the people and should be exercised through the middle. That should be exercised. What is the significance of jury? It promotes the common good of the public. It promotes the common good of public. What is the significance of jury? It promotes the common good. What is the significance of jury? It promotes the common good of public. It promotes the common good and public welfare. It promotes the common good and public welfare. It promotes the common good and public welfare. It promotes the public welfare and common good. It promotes the common good and public welfare. It promotes the common good and public welfare. It promotes the common good and public welfare. It promotes the public welfare. What is the alienation of mission? What is the solution? What is ethical state according to state that represent moral and legal unity? State that promote ethical and moral unity. State that represent moral and ethical unity of society. What is alienation of machinery? The condition where workers become separated from their labor products, human potential. The condition where women become separated from their labor products, and human potential. What is the alienation of master? The condition where workers separate from the labor production and human 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 potential. A condition where workers become separated from labor production and what is meant by means of production? What is the communism want to ask? Class struggle is the secular society based on common and honesty of work. Class struggle. What is the communism according to Marx? Class-based and state-based society based on common honesty of work. Class-based and state-based society based on common honesty of work. What is the meant by means of production? Land, factories, what is the means of production? Land, factory, machines, and tools used to produce goods. What is means of production? Land, factory, machines, and tools used to produce goods. Land, factory, machine, and tools used to produce goods. What is qualitative? Quantitative conclude that quantity of pressure is more important than its quality. Bentham view that quantity of pressure is more important than its quality. Bentham view that quantity of pressure are more important than quality. What is quality? These groups that quality of pressure are more important than